name for a darkroom tish verbringen, like in Yerushalayim? Teach us.
Okay, I'm using my phone here. Okay. Just bear with me. Okay, here we go. Immersing in a mikveh on Erev Shabbos. Shulchan Aruch rules that it is a mitzvah for both men and women to wash the entire body with hot water in preparation for Shabbos. In addition, there is a widespread custom for men to immerse themselves in a mikveh so as to enter the Shabbos in an enhanced state of purity. While this custom is not mentioned in the Talmud or Rishonim and is not a halachic obligation, it is recorded in the Zohar and by the Arizal, and it is quoted by many later poskim, including the Chida, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and the Aruch HaShulchan. As with any familial or communal custom, those who immerse in a mikveh in Erev Shabbos may not deviate from their custom. Several important points need to be made for those who immerse in a mikveh Erev Shabbos. Okay, let's just do the first one because I've got the pages. Okay, I'm just going to give you one point here because I copied some pages, scanned them, but they're not all in order. See if it's okay. Some do not bathe or shower after they immerse themselves in the mikveh Erev Shabbos. This custom is derived from the ruling of the Ramah, who forbids women from showering or bathing after immersing in the mikveh, after the niddah period. Most poskim, however, rule that this stringency does not apply to men who immerse in the mikveh on Erev Shabbos. And indeed, some poskim even recommend that one shower with clean water after immersion in the mikveh. I would definitely say that because you don't know fires that have been before you, it's a good idea. It is forbidden to use the mikveh together with one's rebbe. I don't know if that's
what?
It says here it is forbidden to use the mikveh together with one's rebbe. Now, I don't know if it means in the water together or in the actual bath itself. Okay, here we go. Sorry, it's sorry, the print is very faint here. Okay, then there we go. Here I've got it here. Okay. Okay. This because the rebbe is someone who taught you, like you are a rebbe, Damon, who taught him most of his Torah knowledge.
Don't worry, you ain't going to be showering together, Kevin. I don't care if you in South Africa.
If Rebbe needs assistance in immersing himself, it is permitted for the student to assist. Student who is immersing in a mikveh with his Rebbe, when his Rebbe walks in, may continue to immerse himself and is not required to leave immediately. Okay, it's forbidden for a father to immerse in a mikveh with his son who is over 9 years old. Okay, let's leave it at that. The print is very faint with us, Gabe. I hope I came out.
Even the only immersion that you're going to do with me is immersion in Torah. That's about it.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
All right. Now, guys, we need to cover quite a few concepts before we go on. I don't know if what time is your soccer exactly?
9 o'clock.
All right. So as long as we finish by 10 to 9, because we might need another 5 or 10 minutes. However, I don't even know if we're going to have power in the next 10 minutes. This is all in South Africa. All right. So let's get cracking. All right. Now, I'm going to let Gavin read from the screen. Hang on, Gav. Of course, every email would come across the daf while I'm busy. Sure. Why not? I mean, why would it not allow me to just give me a second? Flowers. Flowers is my new word. Similar letter. Let's go.
If the fact that one stole an ox or sheep was established by the testimony of 2 witnesses, and the fact that he slaughtered or sold the stolen animal was established by their testimony as well, and they were then something popped up and blocked my view, and they were then found to be zomamin, yeah. Sorry, it's on my phone, so it's a bit trickier. They pay everything. If the fact that one stole an ox or a sheep was established by the testimony of two witnesses, and the fact that he slaughtered or sold the stolen animal was established by the testimony of two other witnesses, and both these and those were found to be Zomamin, the first witnesses pay a twofold payment, and the latter witnesses pay a threefold payment. If only the latter witnesses were found to be Zomamin, the accused pays a twofold payment, and they, the latter witnesses, pay a threefold payment. If only one of the latter witnesses were found to be Zomamim, the second set of witnesses is invalidated. If one of the first witnesses was found to be Zomamim, all the sets of witnesses are invalidated. For if there is no theft, there is no slaughter or sale.
Excellent, excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this up piece by piece. Now, what are you guys seeing on your side?
Just the Mishnah up. Wow, what are you talking about?
Is there no banking stuff popping up on your screen? That's what I'm trying to check.
Something came up and said like $10 million and something like that. That's about it.
Yeah, you inherited $10 million dollars from a dead uncle, but you need to claim it back in Zimbabwe. No, that's just the spam page.
Lagos.
No, we're seeing nothing, just the Mishnah, nothing else, David.
All right, so let's just unpack this Mishnah sentence by sentence. If the fact that one stole an ox or sheep was established by the testimony of two witnesses, and the fact that he slaughtered or sold the stolen animal was established by the same two sets of witnesses as well, and they were found to be Zomamim. Okay, so let's just actually say that the two other witnesses came and they said, so you know the basis of Adim Zomamim. Do you know exactly how it works, guys?
I'm okay, I think.
Yeah.
But
okay,
you can refresh us if you want.
Arthur, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. So how does the Zomamim process work?
Well, it's a guy by the name Abe, isn't it?
What?
No, it's false testimony, isn't it?
Yes, but how does it work? I mean, how do we find out it's false testimony?
Okay, is that the one where a guy witnesses says you were here, but meanwhile he was in Cape Town, so he couldn't possibly be in the crime, and he'll pay the same punishment that you were supposed to get.
Excellent. So Arthur said it perfectly well. So, all right. So we're talking about here that the Mishnah is making a distinction when the same set of witnesses testify to the stealing of the animal as they are testifying to the slaughtering or selling of that animal. That's the first case. And that's when they are found, that's where the actual reciprocal payment works in the act of Adim Zomamim, conspiring witnesses. Why we use the word conspiring author instead of false witnesses is because false can mean that they misunderstood or gave us testimony that I saw a guy with a hat doing such and such. This guy had a hat, but it wasn't meant in order to almost incarcerate or damage somebody that was an innocent victim. It was incorrect information or false information, but it wasn't a conspiring witness. So false witness is a term I've used, but I think the correct word is conspiring witness. It's more accurate. So obviously, if they were found to be Zomamim, in other words, conspiring witnesses, they pay everything because exactly as Arthur said, what they intended to do to the victim is done to them. So how does it actually work? Is that they pay the entire 4 or 5-fold payment. So how does this actually work in terms of broken? It's the first time Gavin asked an excellent question. It wasn't Gavin. I mean, Gavin asks excellent questions, but this Kevin asked, is he asked how does the 5-fold or 4-fold penalty work? And it's true, it's not just a solid penalty of 4 or 5. What it consists of is the first part of it is the kefil payment, which is your compensatory amount. In other words, paying the exact value of what was stolen, plus using the pasuk, he shall pay double. So you pay what you took. If you took 100 zuz, you pay back the 100 zuz, and the penalty is 100 zuz. That's automatic with every type of theft. So that's the twofold penalty. He shall pay double. Arthur, is your computer making that noise in the background? Whose is?
No, it's me. I must put it on.
All right. So what happens is that's a careful twofold payment. Now, in the case of a sheep, there's an additional twofold payment, and that in total makes a fourfold payment for a sheep. Now, if it's an ox, there's the double payment, which is the careful penalty, plus a threefold payment above that. Guys, can you put yourself on mute? Because there's a lot of background noise.
It's me. I'm trying to get my phone charged. I was going to cut out. I'm on 15%. Sorry. Let me just... Okay. I can't even see the controls here.
Okay. So basically, the threefold payment is added to the careful double payment, so that makes fivefold for an ox. We said an ox is times 5 because a sheep is embarrassing to carry when you steal it, and therefore that embarrassment takes off some of the sting of the additional payment. So fine. Now that we've got that sorted out in the Mishnah, the next part of the Mishnah is a different case. And that's a case of if the fact that one stole an ox or sheep was established by the testimony of 2 witnesses, and the fact that he slaughtered or sold the stolen animal was established by the testimony of 2 other witnesses, and both these were found to be zomamim, the first witnesses pay a twofold payment, and the latter witnesses pay a threefold payment. Who are the latter witnesses? Is that the testimony concerning a stolen ox, the first set pay for the theft because they accused that innocent person of committing theft, so they pay the double payment. But the second set of zomamim, when they're exposed, were wanting, if it was an ox, to make that person pay a threefold payment. So they then are made to pay a threefold. If it's a sheep, they're meant to pay the twofold. Does that make sense? So each group of witnesses, if they were discredited, has to make the reciprocal payment only of their share, but not of the total. Does everybody understand? Yes.
Say that again, please, Damon. So I was just trying to fix up this webcam. Okay. The share, you said the share of the threefold payment, you said.
No, okay, so what I'm saying is the first case in the Mishnah is talking about a single set of witnesses that testify to both the animal being stolen as well as the animal subsequently being slaughtered or sold. And in that case, when they are proven to be false witnesses or conspiring witnesses, they pay the full fivefold for an ox and the full fourfold for a sheep. Now, the second case in the Mishnah is if the theft itself of an ox or a sheep was established by the testimony of 2 witnesses, and then the slaughtering or selling of the stolen animal was established by the testimony of 2 other witnesses. And in both these sets of witnesses, the one set for the theft and the other set for the selling or slaughtering of the animal, were found to be zomamim, conspiring witnesses. The first set of witnesses pay a twofold payment because that's what they intended to do to the victim. So since they intended him to pay double for a theft he never committed, they pay double for that theft. Now, I don't think each witness pays the twofold of that first set. They pay a twofold together. So each one would pay the equivalent of the twofold divided by 50% each, because they shared the responsibility in their false testimony. Now, your latter set of witnesses only testified to the slaughter or selling of the animal, and when the Mishnah says they pay the threefold, we're obviously talking in a case here where they said that the thief slaughtered a stolen ox. Okay, very straightforward. Now, there's a very, very interesting rule here. Now, The Mishnah's ruling pertains only where the second set of witnesses who testify to the slaughter or sale are exposed as zomimim before the first set who testify to the theft were exposed. Why do you think that is, guys? I'm asking you a question.
Just tell me if I'm on mute or not. Can you just repeat that last line? Sorry, I didn't actually hear you. Just repeat that last line. The question, sorry.
Okay, I'm saying, if you have this case,
I'm listening, sorry.
Okay, if you have a case where in the Mishnah, it's talking about the first two set of witnesses are different to the second two. So your first set of witnesses testify to the theft, and your second set of witnesses testify to the slaughter or selling of the animal. Okay? Then what should happen if they are proven to be Eidim Zomimim is we understand why the first set of witnesses have to pay, right? Because they were convicted of the reciprocal payment of theft, which they try to put on this innocent person. But why would the second set of witnesses have to pay? And what is the question in terms of why there might be a question?
Yeah, they should be paying fivefold, not. They should be paying the full penalty, not.
No.
That's my opinion.
Why, if it's two separate sets of witnesses?
Because the Zomimim, because they're lying, so they have to get the punishment that guy would have got.
No, that's in the first case. In other words, in the first case, you're completely correct. You're dealing with a single set of witnesses that testify to the theft, and as well as the sale or slaughter. So indeed, if they're caught, they pay the full payment, whether it's the 4 or 5-fold payment. In the second case of the Mishnah, you've got two sets of witnesses. The first set testify to the theft, and the second set of witnesses testify to what? The selling or slaughtering of the animal.
Correct.
So what the Mishnah is saying, which is correct, is that the first set only tried to make this innocent person pay what? Read the Mishnah.
Okay, let me just see what they said. Yeah.
And I want to ask you a question, Damon.
Sure.
Could be related to
Just
altogether.
Okay.
And I can't really see anything.
I mean, you read it, Davin. It's too difficult. I'll read it.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm zoned out, but I'm trying. Go ahead. I'm also very small on the screen. Oh, half of it's cut off here. Hold on a second. Karen, carry on, because I'm trying to read it here.
From the top, Damon, where must I read from?
So I want you to read from the top, because I want you to see it as two separate cases.
Question. Okay, if the fact that one stole an ox or sheep was established by the testimony of two witnesses, and the fact that he slaughtered or sold the stolen animal was established by their testimony as well, and they were then found to be zomimim, they pay everything. If the fact that one...
Stop. So again, Gavin, it's easy. If there's one set of witnesses that testify to the stealing of the animal, and then the subsequent sale or slaughtering of that animal, they're establishing then that this person must pay a 4-fold if it's a sheep or a 5-fold if it's an ox. And since they get the reciprocal punishment for being conspiring witnesses, they pay everything. That's what the Mishnah says. That's easy. We have no issue with it. That's what you say.
That one we have no problem with, correct.
So the second one, read it from if the fact, Kevin. Look at my notes.
If the fact that one stole an ox or sheep was established by the testimony of two witnesses, and the fact that he slaughtered or sold the stolen animal was established by the testimony of two other witnesses, and both these...
That's exactly the point. Two other witnesses. So you've got a first set of witnesses testifying to the theft of the animal. The second set testifying to the slaughtering or selling of the animal. They're two separate sets of witnesses.
I understand that, but it's not fair that the second...
Let Kevin finish the reading.
Sorry.
I'll ask you a question after this, please, Damon. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, where are we? And both these were found to be zomimim, and the first witnesses pay a twofold payment, and the latter, it's the second witnesses pay a threefold. So,
yes.
it added together, it's fivefold in total.
Correct, and that is correct, Damon, because if you read it, before you get to your question and before Kevin gets to his, the first set of witnesses only testified to the stealing of the animal, at which case the penalty for stealing alone is what, Gavin?
No, it's two. I understand that. I can see what's written here. I can see what's written here. I understand it. I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is the fact that we got power back, by the way. It just came on now. What I don't understand is if the two lots of witnesses were not connected, if they were connected, then I can understand that in total you'd pay two. The first lot paid 2. They conspired together with the second lot. The second lot paid the 3. The balance, which is the 5. But if the second had nothing, what that guy would have got, that.
Kevin, you went dead. Just repeat what you're saying. You went mute.
No, I think I'm dead, because of my. Just give me a second.
You're alive and well, Kevin. You're not dead. That's what that is. Where's he gone? So, Damon.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Can I interject with a question here?
Yeah, I wish Gavin could hear your question, though, because your question's good.
Because let's say the Adim Zimmerman conspired both witnesses, but the guy did actually steal and slaughter, but they never witnessed this, but they were trying to gang up against him. Then what happens? If they actually made up, they fabricated testimony, but he actually did do it. Then what?
Well, if they were caught out as lying, being witnesses, the case is thrown out of court. And you know what it's equivalent to? Yes, because they're responsible in Shemaim, and I'll tell you why. Because there are many cases where witnesses are murdered, where people are murdered without witnesses.
Yeah.
And the court can't convict, and Hashem convicts after the person's dead. Of course.
Okay. Yeah. No, you can't. I mean, it's otherwise it's not fair.
Absolutely, they don't get away with it.
Yeah. So this is the best I can do with the camera. Yeah, it was like it's tangled and.
You've done well, guys. Sorry, I'm back up. I've got to. When I'm on when ESCOM goes down, I've got a like sort of a power backup, but then I have to manually put it back on.
That's fine.
Afterwards.
Okay,
That's why
so
I went.
all right,
I'm back up. This is my question. I understand what's written there, and my thing is, if the first lot of witnesses, if the second lot of witnesses had nothing to do with the first lot of witnesses, they're unrelated. So the first guy, he did a double. I understand that theft double. He gets the punishment that the thief would have got, 100%. But in the second lot, if they unrelated to the first lot of witnesses, then surely they were going in for the kills. They wanted to get this oak, the thief, and they wanted to accuse him of theft or slaughter, not theft or slaughter, of sale or slaughter. Because of that would have been a fivefold payment for him. Surely they should get the identical payment. Shouldn't have nothing to do with the first lot because they're not related from what I can see. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's an excellent question. It's a question I thought about, and I've got the answer for you. It's that
thank you.
The reciprocal payment is a way to be a kapora in the next world. So what happens is the remedy is never more severe than the crime itself, ever. Okay.
Yeah, that was the part that worried me. I realized that we're going too hard. We're going 5. So the guy's getting 7 now. So that did concern me.
So even if you want to say, like you say, let's just make your question stronger. Let's just make it better because it's a good question. Let's just say that you're saying that maybe that they're not paying 7, but the last set of witnesses were gleeful to try and get him to pay 5-fold, and therefore they should pay a 5-fold penalty because that's what they try to do. And the first set should be a 2-fold, but not to the original person, because the original person that's innocent maybe shouldn't get more than they try to do to him, and it goes to a court. in terms of like tzedakah or whatever. The problem is it's still not meda keneged meda. The whole of Judaism works that a kapora is meda keneged meda, because the latter set of witnesses didn't know that the first set of witnesses were necessarily illegitimate. So even if they said, all right, we don't like this guy, but there's somebody, we always knew there was something fishy about him, and there's a set of witnesses that have come about and turned around and said he's a thief. Now, I think that he's always been a thief, and me and a mate are going to get together and make sure that this guy gets the maximum, a fivefold payment, because the other day he scratched my car with his keys and I don't like him. So at that point, the second set of witnesses might, in fact, believe that the first set are legit, and then just try and incorporate their sting of another threefold payment. So it's not that they're conspiring with the first set. All they try to do to this innocent person is get him to pay a threefold payment more than he should have. Therefore, that's the reciprocal payment to clear things in Shemayim. The first set.
So where do you see that they were trying to do? Where do you see that? How do you see that they were only trying to do the threefold? Where do you? Because then I would agree with you, but I don't see it. Where do you see that?
Because the very fact of it is, when you look at the commentaries on this Mishnah and in the Gemara, and you've done your homework before the shir, then what you see is that there are two different sets of witnesses that say that the first set of witnesses were in Durban with them on holiday, and the second set of witnesses were with the other group of people in Cape Town. That's how it describes it.
Okay, but I understand that, but how do you know they weren't going after? Oh, they were going after three because they obviously know the rule that you can't go higher than 5, so they were going after the balance.
It doesn't matter. Even if let's say they all conspired together, etc., etc. It doesn't matter. On an evidence basis, the only thing that you can prove is that the latter fault, Hashem knows in Shemayim if they actually conspired with the first witnesses, which means they haven't done a proper kapora, because in a spiritual term, you are correct that they will be responsible for that twofold payment in Shemayim. They will be. If, in other words, if there was a first set of witnesses that conspired with the second set, and then they were caught out with not a set of witnesses. It cannot be a set of witnesses saying that the 4 people were in a different place, because when you have 4 witnesses against 2 witnesses, it doesn't balance. And the set of 2 witnesses are thrown out. It has to be 2 separate sets of witnesses. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the whole basis of this case, if you did your homework, and I know you've been busy, is that it's a chidush, what you'll find out, because if you have a set of witnesses and you've got 2 witnesses contradicting, if you've got 2 witnesses contradicting 2 witnesses, there's an argument with Rava and Abaya as to whether it's allowed or not, because 2 witnesses should cancel out 2 witnesses. In other words, 2 people are said to have witnessed a crime, and another 2 witnesses said that these 2 sets of witnesses viewed them in a different place, so they couldn't have seen the crime. That's in Makot 5a. Check it out. And what that means is that you've got 2 people against 2. Now, the rule of logic states that if 2 people's word is against 2 other people, they cancel each other out. That's the rule, generally, by logic. The whole chidush with Adam Zomamim is we believe the second set of witnesses. And that's known in the Gemara as a novelty. And we're going to see the retroactive application of it according to Abaya and Rava. But you would know that if you did some prep. And it's not your fault. I'm not, but I'm saying it's there. It's clear as day. So therefore, if you've got 4 sets of 2 witnesses of the stealing of the animal and 2 witnesses in terms of the theft or slaughter of the animal, those are 4 witnesses together. If another set of witnesses come to say to the 4 that we saw you in another place, they are not believed, because 4 witnesses are believed more than 2 witnesses. Even with that Adam Zomamim principle that we believe the second set, it's not if it's outnumbered. It's if it should disqualify each other by the basis of 2 and 2.
But
And
now, I don't understand in this example, the second set of witnesses are not contradicting the first set. That they don't seem to be related at all.
No,
The
you
first
brought
set,
up an issue. Hang on. You brought up an issue when you brought up this very case, saying, how do we know that the 4 sets of witnesses haven't gotten together? In other words, there were 4 mates that got together.
No, I didn't say that. I
You
didn't say that. I said it doesn't look like they're conspiring. That's why I said unless I didn't say that. I said it doesn't look like they're conspiring. So therefore, I don't understand. So if they're not conspiring, I don't understand why the other ones only pay. If they're conspiring, then I understand that they pay the 3, the balance. The first lot pays the 2, the second lot pays the 3. But I said it doesn't look like they're conspiring at all in this example. It doesn't look like it. Looks like they're independent.
I'm going to send a new link now because we've got 4 minutes left. So if they're independent, what is your issue? Let me see if I understand you.
No, it's not a major issue. I can see I know there's a problem in my argument.
No. I'm saying
you can't go higher than 7.
Argument again because it's a smart.
No, it's not an argument. I just look at the second lot of guys being completely unrelated to the first lot. That's it. It's unrelated. So if it's unrelated, they were going in for the kill. They wanted this guy to pay the 5. I can't see where it says 3. That's because what I can't see it.
Well, let's take 2 scenarios. Either they wanted to go into the kill and make him pay 5, or but they couldn't make him pay 5 if he never stole the animal. So this is the thing: if he stole the animal, and there weren't the first set were not false witnesses. In other words, there weren't other witnesses that came against them. He legitimately stole the animal. The only thing they're responsible for going in for the kill is to make him pay the extra penalty of 3 times. He would have had to pay the double penalty anyway, because there were no witnesses at that point that came to nullify the testimony of the first set. So they said, here's a thief. We don't like him anyway. Let him pay 5-fold. So he's responsible unless there's testimony to the contrary for stealing the animal. And we believe he stole it unless the first set of witnesses are repudiated. So therefore, the only thing that the second set of witnesses were doing was adding to that stink by making him pay 3-fold. Therefore, the second set of witnesses are only having to, measure for measure, repay what they intended this victim to pay. It's that extra 3-fold damage. But that first set, he did steal, or unless it was proved otherwise.
No, I didn't really get the 3, but now I get it. You can't go higher than the 5 bottom line. So these second lot knew that the first lot, they didn't know if the guy was telling the truth or not, but doesn't matter. The first lot of it makes no difference. They were going after the kill for the balance because that's all you can go after. So I get that now.
But in fact, in Shemaim, I think you have a point. Let me tell you why. Let's say the first set of witnesses conspired privately with the second set, and they have 2 sets of witnesses that testified that each set of witnesses were in a different place. In that case, even though the first set of false witnesses pay double, because that's what they intended to do to the victim, and the second set pay 3 times because that's what they intended to do in the to the victim. In Shemaim, Hashem will know if the first set and the second set conspired with each other in a plan, and they won't get a proper kapora because they're not paying the 5-fold that they both respectively should pay. They're only paying their share of the 5-fold. So you, Gavin, have got a good point there in terms of their spiritual. I'm going to share the screen. Okay. And then, Kev, I want you to help us read, because your screen's the biggest.
While that's happening, Kevin, take note. If you prep so much for a soccer game, can you imagine how much you should be prepping for a Gemara shiur?
I prep. No. You're right.
Just saying.
I'm prep.
No, I'm kidding you.
Sometimes I do read over it more than once, but it doesn't always sink in.
You know what? We're having fun as friends, and we're learning a lot and serving Hashem, and it's a good joy.
Okay. I read from.
If only
the latter witnesses were found to be zoimimim, the accused pays a 2-fold payment, and the latter witnesses, pay a 3-fold payment. If only one of the latter witnesses was found to be a zomeim, the second set of witnesses is invalidated. If one of the first witnesses was found to be a zomaim, all the sets of witnesses are invalidated. For there is no theft, there is no slaughter or sale. Can I just read that again?
Sure.
If only the latter witnesses, that's the second set,
Yeah.
were found to be zomamim, the accused pays a twofold payment. And they, the latter witnesses, pay a threefold payment. If only one of the latter witnesses was found to be a zomaim, one of the two, the second set of witnesses is invalidated. If one of the first witnesses was found to be a zomaim, all the sets of witnesses are invalidated. For there is no theft, there is no slaughter or sale.
Okay, so let's break this up in a very simple way. If it says if only the latter witnesses were found to be zomamim, who are the latter witnesses? The latter witnesses are the witnesses that are testifying to the slaughter or sale of the animal. If they were found to be conspiring witnesses, the accused pays the twofold payment. The reason being is that the first set of witnesses testifying to the theft are valid. They haven't been invalidated. Therefore, it's an accurate accusation, and the thief pays the twofold payment. There's no question. That's all it's saying. So it's saying in that case, it's only the second set of witnesses that testifying to the slaughter or sale are found to be conspiring. So they get the reciprocal punishment, but the thief itself pays the twofold payment because the first set of witnesses testifying to his theft are not found to be false witnesses. So that twofold payment sticks to the accused. No question. So it's saying, right, now we've got another situation. If the latter witnesses, meaning the witnesses testifying to the slaughter or theft, basically pay a threefold payment. The reason that they pay the threefold payment is because they were the conspiring witnesses. End of story. Now it's going to do it on the other way. It says if only one of the latter witnesses were found to be zomaim. Zomaim is a singular of zomamim. In other words, if only one of the conspiring, of the two sets of witnesses testifying to the slaughter or sale of the stolen animal are found to be conspiring, the second set of witnesses are invalidated. Why, guys? Why do you think?
If only one of the, because you always need two witnesses.
Exactly. So what it's exactly saying is what Gavin said is since there are no longer two valid witnesses testifying to the slaughter and sale, the defendant cannot be held liable. Hence, this defendant is exempt from paying the additional threefold payment for slaughtering or selling the stolen animal, and he pays only the twofold payment for the theft itself, which there are still two valid witnesses. Now, the witnesses who testify to the slaughter or sale, Gavin, are also both exempt. Why? Because if one of them was found to be a conspiring witness, they are not punished with the reciprocal punishment unless both witnesses are rendered to be conspiring. Exactly as Gavin said.
Because they're not valid.
Correct. Well, it's invalidated because in order for the second set of witnesses to get the reciprocal punishment, they both have to be conspiring. But if there's Reuven and Shimon that are testifying to the slaughter of the animal, and two witnesses, but Shimon was with us in Plettenberg Bay, then Reuven doesn't get punished, nor Shimon with the reciprocal payment, because both of them weren't conspiring. It's only the reciprocal payment if both of them were conspiring, but not if one was. So that's something to bear in mind. If one of the first witnesses was found to be zomaim, in other words, those testifying to the theft, all sets of witnesses are invalidated. Why, guys?
Because the theft doesn't exist.
No, the slaughter or sale doesn't exist as a penalty unless there's proven theft. He could be slaughtering or selling his own animal. In other words, the theft doesn't exist, but the implication is exactly as you said, Gavin. That's correct. So the theft doesn't exist. There's no reciprocal punishment for those two witnesses testifying to the theft because only one of them was conspiring, so they don't get the reciprocal punishment. The second set of witnesses are invalidated because there's no penalty for slaughtering or selling an animal that belongs to you. And therefore, even if they are false sets of witnesses, it doesn't matter, because if the theft was proven to be conspired, that testimony, even if the second set are corrupt, there is no penalty for slaughter or sale if there's no theft. So they're immediately off the hook for a reciprocal punishment also.
Yeah, but maybe in Shemaim they're not, because they try to target that guy.
They're not in Shemaim. They're absolutely responsible. Everybody is. That never goes away. But I'm saying if there's no theft, you could be slaughtering or selling your own animal. So if you cripple the first testimony, then even if the last two were conspiring witnesses or not, there's no reciprocal punishment for them if they are conspiring witnesses. And if they're not conspiring witnesses, but there is a conspiring witness to the theft, say they did legitimately see a slaughter or sale of that animal. But if there's no theft, there's no crime. So that particularly accused is not made to pay. Not for the theft, because one of the witnesses that testify to the theft is false. And that first set of witnesses doesn't get the reciprocal punishment because only one of the witnesses is lying. And the accused doesn't get accused of theft because that fell away. And he doesn't get incriminated even if the second set did, in fact, view him slaughtering or selling the animal because it's his animal. We can't prove it's not his if the first set were false. But even if the second set lied about the slaughter or sale, they're not given the reciprocal punishment in this world because there is no reciprocal punishment if the theft falls away because there's no crime.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's very, very straightforward. Does anybody have any questions up until this point?
Yeah, just one simple one, I think. Just that threefold, the twofold payment. Just going to that middle example, the previous example, that when there's two separate lots of witnesses, the one sees the slaughter, so there's a double fold payment, so that'll go to the original owner. What happens to that threefold payment? Does that go to the original owner, or does that go to because the punishment has to be the same punishment as, because it's the thief. They're saying that the witness. So who gets that threefold payment?
Okay, I need to hear your question again. Just repeat. Must I share the Mishnah? Is it easier if I share the Mishnah? So
yes, please, yeah. Don't take it off the screen, Damon. I just want to look at why you're talking.
This is just a question.
Yeah.
Damon, normally the penalties always go back to the original owner. But what happens here when you have 18 Zommermen? That's what I'm really trying to say. Does the loss, you have 18 Zommermen at the end, so they have to pay that threefold payment in that middle example because it's false testimony, right? So that threefold, does that go back to the original owner or does it go to the thief?
No, there's no original owner and thief. Okay, let me explain this. There's something with it.
No, there isn't, because everyone's lying. That's right. There is no one. So where does that penalty go to? All
right. So that's a different thing. So the first thing is you asking a different question. You're asking two questions in one.
I also have a question for you, Damon.
All right. Let's answer the two questions in one by Gavin. I promise you I'll answer your question now. So the first question is the only time we talked about an original owner and a thief is when they were two separate people. Okay, Gavin, that wasn't in this case. Because when somebody originally had an animal and then there was a thief. In this case, we're talking about something else. Is there an innocent person involved or is there a thief? That's a different discussion entirely. Then your second question is, who does the money go to? Does it go to the court or does it go to the person that was damaged? The answer is I don't know, but I'm assuming just like if the thief pays double, these people are like thieves in that they stole from this innocent person, and therefore I'm sure the money goes back to the innocent person they're accusing. That's my guess.
Yeah. That's right. It is an in person. Sorry, I got it slightly mixed up.
No
But
problem.
but I was following you.
What's your question?
I was following you. Sorry, thanks.
Okay, the last point. If there's no theft, there's no slaughter or sale. So it means, even if the theft is what you said earlier, it could have happened that the witnesses, because they weren't valid witnesses, it can't. It's not accepted as a slaughter or sale, even though it may have happened because the witnesses were invalidated.
Okay, no. The last case is talking about something slightly different. So the last case, what they're trying to do with this Mishnah is bring every possible example to prove a few different points. And I'm going to give it to you in summary. The first point that it's proving is that if there are if there's the same set of witnesses that are testifying to the stealing of the animal of this person, as well as the slaughter and sale by the same person, and that single set of witnesses was testifying to everything, and they've proven to be conspiring because two other sets of witnesses have said that they viewed them in a different city. Then at that point, they wanted this innocent person to pay the fivefold payment because it was the same set of witnesses that accused the person not only of the theft, but of the slaughter or sale of the stolen animal. So their intention was to make this person pay everything possible, which was a fivefold payment in the case of an ox, a fourfold payment in the case of the sheep. And since it was one set of witnesses, they pay everything together, the two witnesses. So if there's a fivefold, they pay 2.5 times each. If it's a fourfold, each witness pays twice. In other words, together their testimony resulted in a 4 or 5-fold. Does that make sense, Kevin, so far? It's easy if the witness was the same. The two witnesses were the same in the first case. Make sense?
Only one set of witnesses?
Yes. In other words, let's keep it simple. The first case in the Mishnah is there are two people, Shimon and Ruvain, that say that Levi stole the animal and then he slaughtered the animal, or he stole the animal and then he sold it to Chaim. Okay? In that particular case, they wanted to make sure this person made a fivefold payment for stealing an ox. They were then found to be in Cape Town when they're accused of viewing this guy do these acts in Johannesburg. So then they were now seen as conspiring witnesses. So they paid a fivefold penalty because they intended to do this to this innocent person accused on the witness stand. Okay? That's easy. That first case in the Mishnah is easy. Then it got more complicated. And it said, what happens if you've got two sets of witnesses? Okay? Where you've got Damon and Arthur, and you've got Gavin and Kevin. And Damon and Arthur said he stole the... In fact, let's not use our own personal names. We're in enough trouble. So what we're saying is the first set of witnesses are testifying to the stealing of the animal, and the second set of witnesses are testifying to the slaughtering or selling of the animal. So the first set, if they found to be false, only pay the twofold to the falsely accused person, because that's all they intended to do on a financial level to that person. Then the second set of witnesses that were found to be false pay the threefold in the case of an ox and the twofold in the case of a sheep, because that's the additional payment after the twofold payment, because he shall pay double. That makes a total of 4 times the amount for a sheep and 5 times the amount of the ox. So the first set of false witnesses pay the reciprocal twofold payment, and the second set of witnesses testifying to the slaughter or sale pay the threefold payment. That's the second case in the Mishnah. That's pretty simple so far. Okay? Now, it's saying, then the next issue is as follows. It said, okay, then the next set is, if only the second set of witnesses were found to be conspiring, the ones accusing this innocent person, innocent only in the fact that he never slaughtered or sold the animal. So they were found to be conspiring. if only were found to be zomamim, the accused is still having to pay the twofold penalty, Kevin, because he did in fact steal the animal. In other words, the first set of witnesses are not false. He stole the animal. But the second set of witnesses didn't like this guy and said, let us make him pay 3 times extra. And they were found to be false. Then the false witnesses get the reciprocal penalty and pay the threefold payment. But the accused still has to pay the twofold payment for actually stealing the animal, because that first set of witnesses were not found to be false, only the latter set. Then the Gemara's got another scenario. It says, well, what happens if of the latter set of witnesses, accusing of the slaughter or sale, was found to be false? So we say then there's no reciprocal punishment for the false witnesses, because there weren't false witnesses. It was only one of the witnesses that were false, but their testimony is invalidated. So the accused doesn't pay the threefold. But the second set are not made to pay the reciprocal penalty of 3, because only one of those 2 witnesses is a false witness, and the other one can't be found to be false because other people viewed him in the same province or the same area. So we don't know if he's false or not, but the second one is, so the testimony is still invalid. Then it's saying the last case, if one of the first witnesses was found to be a zomamim, meaning in case of the theft, all the set of witnesses are invalidated. So it means if there's no theft, Kevin, then the first set of witnesses are not paying the reciprocal double penalty, because only one of the witnesses was lying. So there's no reciprocal penalty unless both witnesses are lying. And then even if there's a slaughter and sale and that took place, whether they're false witnesses or not, doesn't matter, because they're not slaughtering or stealing or selling an animal that's not theirs. The theft has been thrown out of court. So therefore, he could have been selling his own animal or slaughtering his own animal. So there's no penalty at all for the Adem Zomamim, because even if the second set of witnesses is conspiring, we don't give them the reciprocal punishment, because if the first set of witnesses are invalidated, there is no reciprocal punishment, because what they intended to do to the person could never have transpired if there was no theft. So therefore, there's no reciprocal payment. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Because there has to be 2 witnesses.
Yeah, but so what I'm saying is, Kevin, something a little bit deep on the last point is that so there's an innocent guy in the box, right? Because of the 2 witnesses that accuse him of theft, they both say he stole the animal in Yeovil, in Johannesburg. One of the witnesses is still in Plettenberg Bay, so therefore they're not given the reciprocal punishment, because both the witnesses have to be false. So, but their testimony is still invalidated, because you need 2 witnesses to make a valid accusation. So then there's no theft. Then the person accused of thievery does not pay the twofold payment. If there's no twofold payment, there's no threefold payment for slaughtering or selling the animal, because it hasn't been proved that he stole it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? If the last set of witnesses are in fact real, they could have witnessed somebody selling an animal that was in fact his, or they could witness him slaughtering an animal that was in fact his. If it turns around that the last set of witnesses are false, and they wanted to get this guy to pay the threefold, they couldn't do it, because if the first set were invalidated, accusing him of the theft, their testimony wouldn't have stuck. Therefore, they wouldn't have been successful in making him pay threefold. So therefore, we don't make them pay the reciprocal penalty of threefold. In the court system, they're responsible all in Shemaim. All right, that's it.
Just repeat that last point, Damon. Sorry, just say that. Just what you said.
No problem.
A second ago.
So I'm saying, if you take the last set of witnesses accusing of the sale or slaughter, whether they're false or not, there's no reciprocal punishment to those witnesses if they were false. Why not?
Because there's no theft.
Yes, and therefore, even if they try to make
Can't be a slaughter.
pay no. Even if they try to make that person pay the threefold for the slaughter or sale, and they tried, and there were witnesses against the second set. They're not also made to pay the reciprocal payment because the first testimony of theft was thrown out of court because one of the witnesses was invalidated. And therefore, if there's no theft, there's no slaughter or sale crime because you can't make it stick. So even if they wanted to make it stick, Hashem will make them responsible in Shemaim. But the point of it is their testimony wouldn't have been enough to have made this guy pay a fivefold. So therefore, they are not given the reciprocal punishment, not because there weren't two of them, but because the first part has to be there. It's the same with adultery. If it's found that that person never got legally married, even if their fault witnesses accusing them of adultery, those two witnesses are not put to death because there was an invalid marriage contract. Same thing. Same thing. Well, they might have intended to do them. Hashem will be upset and hold them responsible in Shemaim, but we can't give them the reciprocal punishment of what they intended to do to the victim because it's simply one stick if the first part is essential for their conviction. Like, in other words, in order to accuse of adultery, you have to prove there's a valid marriage to start with. Same thing. Okay, guys, I've taken enough of your time. It's lovely to see you. Yes. Just one question to Arthur. Arthur, how are you feeling?